Okay, folks, I don't know how long we're going to be able to do this, but this is something I kind of want to do tonight and be ready for it in the morning. That's to put the goop on these four palm bases. And I've had these done for a while now, but just haven't found the motivation or time really to do it, or the time and motivation to do it in midweek. So we're going to do this now. And unfortunately, this is going to take a bit of time. This is pretty simple, but if you want to do a shitty job, yeah, rush it. If you want to be happy with what you did, you got to take your time. Okay. Here's the goop. I know that we've got one started and we got a new one that we bought. And this is, of course, the Figure-atively ground texture. This is the rough gray pumice. And we go through quite a bit of this. It's funny, I got used to the height of the other table. This one's like really, really tall. I haven't been doing a lot of painting. I have been doing a lot of stuff on the computer, but not painting, so not used to the height difference here. All right, we're going to need to do, let's just go ahead and put some of this stuff on. We'll do the edges last. That way you're not trying to manhandle that. Getting stuff everywhere. Let's lose the watch, because I'm sure we're probably going to have to get all... We're going to have to get fingered in there. Finger painting. Finger gooping. And I'm not going to try to even attempt to put any rocks in this. After it's done, we're going to come in and we'll make the mix of that matte medium and then do the rocks with that. That worked really well last time I did it. We're still going to do our normal Saturday, Sunday morning deal. At least that's the plan. So I wanted to do this. I don't know if anybody was going to be in during this time, but I don't know. I don't have any high hopes for participation, but all right, let's try something a little different. Let's try. Oh yeah, this is trashed. To get in on these rocks here, because this is actually going to be, calling it a cliff face is a bit extremist, but it's a rock face over here, and that's going to stand out, make a good objective. Yeah, this is working better. worn out, this chair. I just realized I had it to a certain height, and it's kind of losing height as I go. I done broke it. So, kind of had a interesting revelation, and that is I've pretty much just gone back to just doing these videos, these live sessions on Saturday or Sunday morning for, an hour, and more than an hour, a couple hours. Instead of doing them every night, every chance I could get, rush here, because I'm like, I just don't have the time, motivation for it. It's just too much work to try to fit it in during the week. But with that said, so I've gone back now, I'd say probably a month. Yeah, probably a month. A month I've just pretty much just been doing it on the weekends. And the number of viewers I get hasn't diminished. It's a little disappointing. Not that I want my viewership to diminish, but it's like, it doesn't matter whether I put out new content, I'm still getting the same amount of views. So I guess so many of my views end up being, old content of, games that I no longer play. That I figured, I just wouldn't get that many views, and really it hasn't changed that much. I mean, you got the people that are always going to want to see the latest and greatest, but there's only a few of those. So that was kind of a good news, bad news type thing. But like I've said again, I do this for me to stay on track. So the fact that anybody even finds this even remotely interesting, it's like watching paint dry, literally. Especially this, that's just kind of mindless. And there's probably something I could use that's less expensive than this, but I'm happy with this. I really don't want to change this up, and I got to figure out where to store that. And this is working. Hey, what's up, Hoffman? Working on some scratch Chinese buildings, specifically for China. Well, I've just gone back to just doing this 2 days a week. Well, this actually would be the third day, so I want to have this done for in the morning. I don't know that I'm going to actually be able to do work on this in the morning, but we're still going to do our morning show with something. I just haven't had the time really to do these long sessions. Work has just been out of control. It's just been I'm just completely drained. I don't want to do anything that has any kind of responsibility when I leave work. And I've been video gaming with somebody that I know. I've been playing War Thunder. And as a matter of fact, speaking of China, we just had a new map, and there's several maps that were really attractive looking, and were definitely China. One of them was like a series of mountains, and one of them had those volcanic type of pillars, like those mesas and stuff that they have in Arizona, but the Chinese equivalent. So they're a lot narrower and a lot taller. Really cool flying in between. I mean, the whole map wasn't that. It was just one area. You know, they're not that tall. You can fly over them and stuff like that. But some good inspiration there for Chinese. Well, that's the only nation that I won't play in that. I'm not playing Chinese in War Thunder because I don't mind the Chinese, but I like ancient Chinese. These red red Chinacom guys. I don't want to play those guys. They're not very interesting. You're talking about ancient Chinese, I'm all in. But these modern post 1945 Chinese, not interested. You 5 of your Japs painted and wanted to do some terrain building. Well, I might actually be painted to paint some Japanese tomorrow morning if this isn't dry. I'll kind of leave that out there. I was actually going to work on Japanese aircraft, unlocking some Japanese aircraft in the game tonight, but I did this operation. Supposedly was I misread the thing, and supposedly you could get 1 day of a premium account by completing this. So like all yesterday, that's basically what I did all yesterday night, and then come to find out, I unlocked it, and it was a random. It's a random thing you can get, and one of the random things you can get is actually a day of premium. I'm like, man, this game is like super like stingy, super stingy about giving away like a premium day. I'm not going to pay for it. As soon as you pay for it, you're like, that's you can't say you never paid for anything. But anyhow, I was going to unlock some Japanese aircraft. They put a pretty big dent on the Soviet aircraft yesterday, but I'm playing with somebody that I know is kind of a nerd like I am about World War II equipment. So we're talking about like real stuff while we're playing the game. It's not just some kid that wants to fuck around, ride around in circles and play, Halo or something like that. So I'm really enjoying that. And it's somebody that, that I know. It's a war gamer. So and I see him every couple months anyways, in person. So I can see if you're online in the morning. I woke up super early and started your Chinese buildings. What are you using as a base for them? See, I would just 3D print them now. With all the stuff that's out there, just 3D print it. And are you making them specifically for Chinese? Where's my little Shanghai car here? See, this thing's got Shanghai written all over it. Now, it's got the wrong wheels and everything, but this totally looks like, something that, the wheels are, flat and whatever, but that's totally like a 1930s Shanghai car. Could be anywhere, but just reminded me of that. I don't want to do any cities that are specifically, well, anything else, I do wonder how those Chinese figures are. Those hell, I don't even remember who they are. Valor, whatever games, Valor, whatever the hell they're called. Got some nationalist Chinese. I should be on in the morning. The only reason me getting away from painting figures is I've actually been pretty disciplined about what I'm doing and not getting pulled into another tangent. Now, the daughter just went off to college. She got packed up, and her move-in day was today. My wife moved her in, and I've got the weekend to myself. So I kind of wanted to lay out the tarp and see how these palm things are looking and how much it uses up of that island. But I don't even put a dent on that island. The island is like 4 feet by like almost 8 feet. It's almost 4 by 8. It's a little narrower than 4 feet, and it's like 90 inches or something like that. It's like 42 by 90. I bought anything for 1/72nd miniature. I have not. No. I wonder what scale they do things in. Yeah, I believe in going cheap, and if it's turning out well, it's really empowering to basically make something out of nothing. I mean, these things are, this is relatively cheap. You got nothing to lose. Yeah, it's funny. Like, this kind of reminds me of those silly things that they made you do in school. I remember in art class, they would do like, all right, everybody bring in your uh, cartons, milk cartons and everything. They were, basically like milk jugs and like cartons of like Tropicana orange juice, you know, that are made out of cardboard, anything like that. And then they would like stick it all together. I don't even know how the hell it was. And you would make like this modern bullshit, that wasn't anything. And you'd paint it, and it was like, that was art. I'm like, well, you're basically making something out of nothing, which, is what this is. You're basically creating something out of, because the end result, I'm really happy with it. Really, really happy with it. I don't know that I like anybody's wood. I don't know that I like anybody's palms better than mine. If I see something to tinker with it, I can tinker with it and make them, better. But the fact that they're all removable, that's super handy. I can see that being really handy. This foam board cost me $1.25 and has made a little village. Cool. Yeah, this is, I gotta show you this. You might have been on here when we talked about this the other day. But I see stuff like this, and I'm really gonna try to keep myself from doing this, but I can't make any promises. This is like what I put my palm trees in, which is just, I don't even know what came in here. Probably a vacuum or something like that. But it's styrofoam. And then I'm looking at this and I'm going, there's an archway here, and this could be some kind of a bunker with like underground parking. You could cover this, put some AA mount. I mean, the next thing you know, you got a commando thing that they're going to knock out. It's pretty exciting, and I mean, this already looks kind of rubble anyways. And I got tons of stuff like this at work. This is just from here, and like this could be like a start of something. But I'm like, now you're gonna have Northwest Europe or Italy or something like that. And I don't want to keep jumping campaigns. I want to get the Pacific going. I mean, I could do a Japanese naval gun or something like that. But I am a fan of making stuff basically for free. Japanese sniper that fits in a palm tree. Well, the next thing you know, there won't be any palm trees left. They're going to blow them all to kingdom come. 1/72nd. All right, I'll check that out. Let's see. 172 miniatures. Be nice if I could spell. I wonder if it's this 172scale.com. All right, this is cool. A Baha'i Kubo hut. That's like a big Asian house. Japanese. Oh, they got Chinese guys in here. Cool. Buffaloes and all kinds of amphibious stuff. Oh my God, 19 pages. Holy smokes. Let's look at terrain, see what the heck they got. And of course, it's in the UK. Of course! Oh, that's a cool bridge. Oh, that's freaking handy. A watchtower? I'm like, I could make that myself, but at some point, it's £4 sterling. Like, at some point you need to filter by theater, China. It's like they got stuff on the Pacific mostly. That's cool. Like I said, I wasn't really interested in the Pacific until it dawned on me I need to do the not too specific Pacific. And like I said, I don't want to do this necessarily from the standpoint of you want to just make some Fantasyland bullshit, but it just allows me to not have to have these. I'll have to check that out later. These you already know how it's going to play out kind of things. Japanese hold up in a bunker or caves or something like that, and the Americans trying to get them out. It just that's a little too one sided. So even the Japanese tanks that never fought outside the home islands, they built them. They made a couple hundred of them. I'm not opposed to getting those. And they're defending this island. Is this island Japan? I don't know. Does it really matter? But the intention is not to have, okay, we're going to have a British player and a Marine player and a Chinese player and a Dutch player and an Australian player. That's not the point. That's not what we're trying to accomplish here. Like I got one squad of Special Naval Landing Force for the Japanese. Well, it's likely that they didn't that they got used by themselves. So basically, I have a squad. If I'm trying to be ultra realistic, I got a squad that I can't use with everything else. And maybe there's a Japanese amphibious tank or landing craft or something that shows up, and there's a squad of these guys gets out. And it doesn't have to be an island. It could be, some Burmified type place, or it could be, something that's Chinese-ish, or, that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be. I don't want it to be a traditional beach landing like Tarawa or, anything like that. That's why we didn't want to use sand as a base for all this stuff. Super cheap. See, the problem with doing a super cheap Chinese village for me, I'd be worried about, because the Chinese roofs, or really Asian roofs, they have a very specific thing on them, and then roof tiles and that kind of stuff. Like, even more important than super cheap is you can make them the dimensions that you want. Sometimes you're limited, like, okay, well, they make this, but they don't make this other thing. And I still can't believe how difficult it was to find some kind of a Buddhist little pendant or something like that to put on the side of one of these rock faces. And make it look like it's built into the rock kind of thing. Okay, I think this one's pretty much ready to go. And this should dry quicker because there's a lot less on it than the other ones that I made. But we'll have to put that glaze stuff, whatever it's called, matte medium. Mix it with some water and then use it to attach the the rocks and stuff, which work really bit well. All right. I'm really surprised how heavy this stuff is. It's fairly heavy. And that's a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and rinse this out. I'll be right back. You get a chance to watch more of that booth at the end? I don't know if my daughter would have liked it. Maybe she would have. Booth at the end, booth at the back, whatever the hell it's called. One of those two things. Yeah, the good thing about doing things on the cheap isn't that you're not wasting money, but there's peace of mind. You're like willing to take risks. At least I'm willing to take risks. Because if I screw this up, I don't have any money invested in it. And by this time, I shouldn't have that attitude because doing terrain, modeling stuff, wargaming things, it's pretty much a win. There's like a 95% chance that I'm going to be happy with how it turns out on my first try of doing something. But still, there's this little guy on your shoulder going, hey, don't waste any freaking money because you're going to be disappointed. So doing it on the cheap, well, that's peace of mind. At the same time as, I'm not paying myself, so, I am putting some labor into it, but it's therapeutic to some point, to some degree. Corrugated cardboard Chinese roofs. I finished the first season of Booth at the end. Well, what'd you think? You like it? If I remember correctly, the second season isn't much worse. Meaning it's not one of those shows that, man, the first season's great. Oh, but the second season sucked. I don't think it falls in that category. And now that you've watched the whole thing, what do you think? What do you think of the man? What do you think he is? You think he's something? By the way, it doesn't. It doesn't. They don't tell you in the second season either. I mean, I personally don't think he has any powers, but I'm not, very superstitious. That kind of thing. It's one of my favorite little shows I've seen. I already recommend it to a lot of people. It's cool. It's like nothing else, and it's like, talk about doing it on the cheap. That's on the cheap. And I do like when they fade out. I mean, it's all in one diner, but they'll fade out and they'll show like a scene of, it's like artsy. Like they show a scene of, maybe like what the diner looks on the outside like from a passerby, and then it goes into that scene, and then when it goes out and switches scenes, it might show the diner from a different angle. It's cool, and it makes you think. And I'm really not very good, or maybe I'm just not very interested in trying to figure things out. So like, if my daughter watched it, she would have been like, "Oh yeah, I knew all those stories were going to tie in together." But I'm like, dude, I'm just enjoying it in the moment. So when things like that tie in, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I wasn't expecting that. But it's not a murder mystery where I'm trying to solve it. It's just I'm just watching it for entertainment purposes. You can listen to it like a radio drama. I guess you could. Yeah, I thought it was excellent. It was recommended to me by somebody else who has good recommendations. Um, and it's done in a very classy way that it doesn't. It's kind of it has some strong topics, but you don't see any of them. So it's not creepy. It's not a horror movie. It's not a. Yeah, I needed to go out for a walk tonight, but I just didn't. I didn't make it. I didn't make it. I've been trying to get through my that book on that European book right now, the War in Italy or whatever the hell it's called. It's really good, but man, it's tens of hours long. Yeah, some things you're like, man, this is so cool and so unique. Why don't they make other things like that? Like I enjoy things that are just done differently. Like that one's different. Um, it's well, it could be worse. It could be running. If I have to run, somebody has to chase me. I mean, that's the rules. You know. But that booth at the end, that's really cool. The way they did the first season of Stranger Things, that was really cool. A couple of episodes of Black Mirror, those were pretty cool. That movie Memento, that was cool. The way they did that. The movie that apparently only Mitch and I really like, Hardcore Henry, the way that was filmed, that was pretty cool. It's neat to see them do things in a different way that's not predictable. About the only thing you can count on now that is fresh is if, and there's several people that do this now. I don't know who the directors are, but the whole Tarantino thing of where they just take all the pieces, they cut the movie in pieces, jumble them all together, so to speak, and you watch them out of order. You know, and as far as I'm concerned, he was the first person that did that from any movies that I've seen. Maybe other people did it before, but I didn't see those movies. But that's about the only unique thing that you can see in movies that I can think of right off the bat. It's just that whole jumbled order, which I'm a fan of, but the one favorite shows are the ones that inspire you to write. If I watch shows that inspired me to write, I wouldn't watch them. I don't like writing. I don't, and it all has to do with writer's block kind of thing. And I feel like you probably find it therapeutic to write. I don't. Okay, I would want to tell a story, and I don't want to tell a story to people that don't want to listen. You know, it'd be like I would hate to teach history because I love history. Okay, and I don't want to teach history to a bunch of people that are just trying to take the class just to pass it. I want to, like people that freaking love history. Like my wife says, I read books for information, not for entertainment. Ultimately, it is entertaining, but Yeah, I'm looking at scenarios. That's what the stuff that I read is for scenarios. And to learn more about, all right, what about this, how do you use the Sherman tanks in Italy, that kind of stuff. I mean, I took history for all my electives in college because I wanted to be motivated to read more about it, but not in what was in the class, just outside of class. Yeah, I absolutely hate to write, and it's a writer's block type thing. I don't know where to start. You know, I didn't have good teachers in school with rough draft, and the rough draft wasn't presented correctly. You know, I don't mind doing the prep work if I find the assignment worthy. But that's the problem is like like there's stuff that I would set up now that would be the equivalent at work that would be equivalent of doing a rough draft on things. They're not papers or anything like that. But if I'm trying to put together like a schedule or something like that, that kind of makes sense based on what the customer wants and what we can do and what works the best up for both sides. I'm kind of doing a rough draft before I put something together for them. But that's worth it. But I don't feel like doing a rough draft for something that I consider just to be busy work, which I'm completely allergic to. As soon as I catch wind that something's busy work, I'm just like I'm ready to read. I'm ready to start a revolution and lead it to not do that. I really have a very intolerant attitude to busy work, and and I'm pretty sure it's stuff that I've experienced as a kid, as an adolescent, that I was made to do a lot of stuff just because, and like I totally that's how I'll rebel against that shit, you know. But I've got a blog. I have a blog, a WordPress site. Blogger was a mess, but when I got a WordPress site and I stopped doing stuff on there because I don't get the enjoyment of adding things to that if people aren't commenting or I can tell that it's inspiring anybody. It's not inspiring me. I just feel like, sharing the stuff that I've encountered, thank you, that I've encountered and maybe it'll help somebody else out. But if I'm not getting any feedback as to anybody even reading this, you know, I could think of a lot better things to do. And the problem with writing is there's a lot of people out there that do a lot of writing. Now, you'll probably agree with me that they're just throwing shit out there. Like if you look at these articles, like there was an article that I came across the other day that it was one of these online articles, and who knows if it's even written by AI or whatever. But this article is um, shows from your childhood that are difficult to watch nowadays. And they put on their stuff like Hogan's Heroes and Gilligan's Island and things along that. And it's like it's obvious that the writer is either AI or someone that was born the day before yesterday. And it's like just doesn't understand it. But it's an article. It's written so poorly. You know, the reasoning is like flawed. It was basically something along the lines of can't watch Hogan's Heroes because I can't remember what his first name. Bob Crane. Bob Crane was involved in nudie movies and was doing lewd things and got killed because of it. I'm like, really? That's the reason you can't watch Hogan's Heroes. Of all the other reasons you could be like, it pokes fun at a serious subject, whatever. All the things you could come up with it. That's what it came up with. And so, so there's a lot of writing out there, and there's a lot of bad writing out there. I think you doing videos is better than writing. So when it comes to videos, what I'm really bad at is I like winging all this and just seeing what happens. And it's because I don't want to waste my time planning. I mean, if it's something important, yeah, I kind of need to lay it out, but I like just winging it. That's kind of who I am. I mean, I don't wing everything, but like this stuff isn't important. It's just therapy, and let's just see what happens. And I'm definitely not a stage person. If you were to meet me in real life, I'm the same motherfucker. Let me get a Coke. And that was funny when I went to Historicon and I met some of these people who do war game videos at a much higher level than I'll ever do one at. And it was funny because I recognized all these guys, Little Wars, I'm going to say. And the guys that were really pleasant in the video weren't that way in real life. And one guy in particular, just seemed like he was a hard ass on the video. Like, I seen him in a couple of videos. I'm like, this guy's like a dickhead. Was like super nice in person. So, you never can tell. Everything is going to be AI soon. I've been looking at AI jobs. It's going to take over everything. Even news companies are hiring. AI integration specialist. All the AI on Facebook surprised me too. Well, it can do people's jobs, but I don't think it could do what I do better. By all means, do it. I don't want to fucking do it anymore. I want to do this. All I do is put out fires anyways. I'm not a big fan of AI, but I did realize I'm not going to get into it, but there is something that it's really good for. And here we go. But, those fake videos, I hate that shit. I hate fake crap to begin with. It's so damn dishonest. I hate dishonesty. I got this guy that I'm dealing with playing this game, and he's like, oh, you should buy a premium account. I said no, because as soon as I buy a premium account, assuming I want to spend the money for it, I can no longer say that I've never bought a premium account. Well, who cares about that? I said I do, because I'm an integrity person. Like, it's important to me. I don't want to go around slinging around words. I'm never playing DBA again. And the next thing you know, I'm playing DBA. Which, by the way, I had a dream of last night that I'd broken my rule and played DBA. Fucking nightmare. I'm not gonna do that shit. Let me play something like it, but I've done all I can with it as much as I can. It's not going back to that. I don't hate it or anything. It's just that, I can't get it to grow. So it's time to move, and it's keeping me from doing other things. So, bye-bye now. But I'm a person of my word. Do I occasionally say something and do something different? Yeah, and I'm ate up about it. I don't want to tell you, hey, I'll be there on Tuesday, and then I can't. I don't care if everybody else is the other way. I'd rather have different flaws than that. It's something I value a lot. Mitch. Mitch never says he's going to do something and then doesn't do it. I don't think I've caught him on one. That's good. I value that a lot. Maybe that's not important to other people. Well, I wouldn't make a good salesman. you know. Tons of fake AI World War II photos on Facebook. When I was talking about AI, I was talking about the things we read online. Yeah. I think AI is really useful, and I'm going to leave this right here. I'm not going to elaborate because they're really useful if you have some kind of a fantasy that is not feasible to do AI with it. I haven't done any of it, but I've stumbled across things, and I'm like, okay, well, I could see the value in that. When I'll leave that right there at that. Nobody getting harmed, that kind of stuff. No children, none of that stuff. But other than that, my wife uses it a lot for planning trips and how to put stuff together, and I don't mind using it like that if she can navigate it as well. But it's kind of like speaking into your phone, right? I don't like to speak into my phone. Hey, how do I get to such and such a place? Because if I type something other than fat fingering something, I'm going to get the results that I'm looking for. It picks up on your speech wrong and misunderstands things. And then you have no, that's not what I want. Mitch would do that all the time. I don't think he knows how to type into a phone. He speaks everything into his phone. And every time he searches for something, it takes him 7 tries to get what he wants. It would drive me crazy. That would absolutely drive me crazy. To have that many fails. No, that's not what I want. I don't want to talk to fucking that speaker that starts with an A and has an X in its name by Amazon. I don't want to talk to that thing. First of all, she doesn't have an attractive voice. This one's done. All right. I'm going to be doing some rubble for your Chinese village. What did you use for the small pieces of wood in your debris? So, if I can tell you my one secret about rubble, it's when I got the bricks. I was disappointed about getting the bricks because they were the wrong freaking color. So I made a wash, dumped them in the wash, and stained them all. Just with craft paint. That was the secret. All I did was use pieces of wood, little 1/16 by 1/16, and snapped them in pieces, and then put them in that wash. I basically made a slurry almost of a paint cup with a thick wash, and just let them in there. Put them in there and then laid them out on a paper towel and let them dry. And that was, like I said, I'd never done it before, but I'm like, all right, let's try this. Again, it's cheap. What do I got to waste, Well, yeah, I might as well just take over the media and stuff because I don't know. I could be wrong. I have a feeling that just a lot of people just don't listen to the media anymore. I don't. They've been caught lying too many times. I'm not interested in what they have to say. You know. Because it used to be there was news. And then there was there's news that you want it to sound like this. There's right wing news, there's left wing news. How about just the freaking news? Because I don't have a problem with news being one way or maybe being a certain way or a certain one because how it's going to be, but they just flat out will obfuscate what the stories that they don't want to present, and and not even bring them up. And it's like, I'm not interested in that crap. It'd be like, oh no, it's okay if the guy I like is breaking all the rules and doing stuff they shouldn't be. No, he shouldn't be. You're either being honorable or dishonorable. Well, I don't pay attention to the news at all. You know, I just don't care. Some people use this cork for rubble. I guess this would probably work if you stained it. The problem is it's always going to be darker than this. I have a feeling, though, this would look like rubble, though. I'm not saying I wouldn't use it, but yeah, media's lost a lot of credibility. My generation and younger is mostly moving to what's called independent news. Your generation? I thought you were my age. Maybe you're 10 years younger than me. You're not a young whippersnapper. I don't think. You're at least in your late 30s. Well, there's a lot of people that don't care, and I do. I mean, if you're going to lie to me, I don't really care what you have to say. I'm wasting my time on a fantasy. I'm wasting my time trying to believe a fantasy. Yeah, I don't listen to politics at all. That's a shit show. You're 36. Okay, so you're younger than my brother. 36. Well, hell, I was like, shit, I'm 36. I feel like I'm 36. The generation I really dislike is my daughter's generation. Oh, they suck. Oh, there's no hope for them. We need like a world war to straighten them out. Maybe we need to lose this world war. They are the stuff she tells me that goes on in her college. Oh my goodness. I couldn't function in that generation. Let's see. When I was 36, what year was it? Oh, it's too late for math. I don't freaking know. 2007? I think that's right. 2007. Which to me was the other day, but I guess it wasn't. Shit, I was still playing DBA at that time. I just gotten in 2007. I just gotten. Let's see. I had just gotten my Kogoryo Korean done. I painted a Japanese soldier with his helmet pulled back a bit slightly. The only thing I have to complain on, there's a lot of annoying mold lines. Could be the ones you have though. It could be that same molds have just been through hell. You know. If I do decide to do that, I know which guy you're talking about. I'll see if I can take a picture of him and compare him and see if mine has a lot less molds, and that's just the age of the casting. Which I didn't know was a thing. But a lot of these molds sometimes are made in a material that, well, is a lot softer than the metal. And the metal ends up damaging them every time that, little by little, that a new one gets cast. And yeah, I know which guy you're talking about. There's not a whole lot of guys that have their helmet pushed back. I think there's a Brit or two in the British that all in his British that are also the same way. It looks a little awkward, Um, he's got a couple of Japanese guys that are really cool looking. The guy with the light machine gun with the bayonet. He's got a couple guys at the charge with the what do the Brits call it? Scrim in their helmet. You know, the little leaves and stuff like that. The helmets that have all the little yeah, they're cool figures. They're really really cool figures. The rules don't have any Japanese in them, so it's just about the it'd be like, okay, well, what stuff would make the Japanese different? And obviously it would depend on what kind of a squad. But if you're talking about frontline Japanese squad, what would make them different? And I think they would just have a higher morale. They might be able to do something else. I don't know whether they can. I'd say so much they can self rally or anything like that, but so you have to play them a little different. But they only have one squad leader, so that's kind of limiting. But same thing with the Soviets. The Soviets only have one squad leader. Same thing with the Italians, only one squad leader. They don't have an assistant. How do you make your little nameplates for your base figures? Okay, so I go and I print them in Excel, and the reason I do them in Excel is because it's easy to put 6 point, 7 point, 5 point all next to each other with the same names, and then print them and see which ones look the best. I believe I'm doing 6 point, Arial, narrow, bold. I believe that's what I'm doing. And I just print them out on a piece of paper, cut the little piece out, take a little piece of wood that is it's thin, glue it on it, paint around it, and glue it in place. Yeah, I wouldn't want to play my game if the names aren't on there. I mean, that's the whole point. Hey, look, speaking of which, I got my list of Japanese names here. Most common Japanese last names of World War II. So I'm going to try to avoid stuff like, Tanaka. I mean, Tanaka was a famous guy. He's one of the admirals that went down and did a lot of those, what do you call it? The Tokyo Express things. I don't want to use Tanaka. It's going to sound like, oh, you just don't have any originality. And it's like, no, it's a really freaking common last name. Hasegawa. Oh, you build models and you used Hasegawa. Well, it's a last name. It's a common last name. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do Takashita. What's that guy crouching over there? Oh, he's Takashita. Now, I didn't even write down, Yamamoto. You're not going to have guys like that. Same thing. However you say that guy's name, Watanabe, that actor. I'm not going to use that. It's too obvious, It's like if you did the same thing with American. You got one guy named Wayne. You got one guy named Eastwood. You got one guy named... Come on, can't you come up with something original? Been looking at World War II rule sets, and what I like about Face of Battles are RPG elements, and then you give them names, it's a lot more interesting. I looked at Bolt Action, it was a no. Yeah, Bolt Action's, they're selling figures. No, I'm really happy with Face of Battle, and I'm really happy that I feel comfortable enough to modify it if I feel it could be better. Like, I can run it however the hell I want, I think putting everybody on one side is the way to keep it moving. And you can make it however you want. And does it play slow? I don't think it plays that slow. We gotta figure out, like if somebody is, if they fail a morale check by a little bit, what does that mean? Okay, they're shaken. Okay, well, if you fail it again, then you're pinned. What if you're already pinned and you get pinned again? What does that mean? It's almost like you need a flow chart. Like, did you complete your work? Yes, so you follow that you need a flow chart for that. Is the guy already pinned? Then this happens. So you're not looking up that stuff all the time. That's really the only part that moves slow. You know. I don't know. I haven't really dug into it. I know that it turns a lot of things into a D10, which I'm okay if it's morale and if it's spotting. Like spotting simplified, that's fine. The firearm combat, I don't need that to be more simplified. The good thing about it is the original set of rules of the Face of Battle has all these compressions that you could do. So you can either play in what I call actual scale, which is what I play it in, and or you could play in condensed. And they basically did away with all the condensing stuff. Said no, it's this is the scale it is. So the scale that I want to play it in is what the other one is based in. Not that I couldn't convert it, but you know, it's just really weird when you're moving individual guys around, right? You're using a squad. Like, let's use this for a piece of terrain, okay? They're on pennies, right? It would not be unusual for a Japanese squad to have everybody occupy this ground, right? It's not that much space, right? You'd have one guy here, maybe one guy here, one guy there, one guy there, one guy there, one guy there. Okay, that's half the squad. Another half of the squad here. If you're playing an actual scale, an area like this, a squad could easily fit in there. And actually, they would be a bit dense if they were in that. But when you start throwing a grenade and a grenade starts blowing up like this, you can catch multiple guys in the area of effect. You still have to roll for each individual, you know, but the splinters and stuff can go in that area. And that's what's important to me. I don't want to play this thing where it's like, point blank range, you can only shoot like pistols this far, but you can if you stack guys together, you wouldn't be able to fire through the crowd. I'm not saying penetration wise, but distance wise. So it's too condensed that way, because some things are condensed and some things aren't. Like the buildings aren't condensed. You're still playing with 28 millimeter buildings or 20 millimeter buildings or whatever, but you can't throw a grenade from one side of the building to the other. And I'm talking about like a house. Like, okay, I'm not a baseball star, but I can throw a grenade across my house. So I like that. I don't like some things condensed and some things not condensed. So, but again, I can play however the heck I want. They changed the movement. They changed the movement impulse to 5 instead of 10. Well, that might actually work. It might actually work to make because 10's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of a lot of interesting things can happen. But I'm willing to give it a shot, play it the way it's intended. But I don't want all the bolt action rifles the same. I just don't. I'm not willing to do that. So, and the original rules didn't. Even if it's small changes, I still want those small changes in there. That's not stuff that slows the game down. That's the stuff that adds flavor. And like I wouldn't mind some guys move faster than others. Some guys move slower than others. By a 10% or 15% difference. Oh, there's that guy that doesn't run so well. You have these guys up. You encounter chaos, and a story develops. It's not like you're writing your own story. The game writes the story for you. The narrative is interesting to listen to. It provides an interesting narrative. Not like, oh, we showed up, we shot first, we won. Like, okay, I don't want to read that book. I don't want to read that book. I want to read the book that, they broke into a house and then the guy went to go shoot somebody and his gun jammed. And then while his gun jammed, the other guy came in and slung at him with a bayonet and stabbed him in the side and wounded him. But his other buddy came in there and took a dagger. That's the kind of stuff I want to read about, If rules like all the bolt action rifles are the same, does that make adding nations like Japanese in easier? Yeah, but I got the data on the Japanese stuff. It's like, let's say you have a game that has all the data for, and this is the case for the first one, the first issue. You got, the base game came with Russian and German. And then they added British, then Commonwealth, excuse me. Americans, French, and that's it. They didn't add all those. Like each one was a different thing. Okay, so they don't have Italian and they don't have Japanese. All right, not having Italian and Japanese, if I wanted to use a game that had like, I don't know, a bunch of Italian tanks, like M1340s, you think that'd be difficult to do? Hell no. You look at the penetration values of the M1340, okay, they're almost the same as this other tank that is included in the game. What are those stats kind of thing? You know, all that information is available online. You know, it's real easy to do. Oh, this Russian, the Italian light machine gun. Okay, it's almost the same as maybe the DP Russian machine gun. Well, how does that one work? Okay, it would be like the DP, but maybe a little bit less reliable. Okay, so it jams a little easier. You know, just stuff like that. It's easy to do. You know, I don't have to like, oh, nobody came out with the data for the Japanese. I can't play Japanese. Bullcrap. Now, this weekend, I'm supposed to play some tanks in War Thunder with a certain someone, and I'm going to suggest we do Japanese. Work on some Japanese tanks. Well, you know, you got games like Bolt Action that are just generic. You got games that are like, what's the one that everybody plays in 15 millimeter? I can't remember what the hell it's called. You know, it has a lot of like flavor things, but it has things that are hokey and gamey just to kind of make the Germans different, or maybe make the Russians different, or you know, whatever the hell that thing's called. The one that everybody plays. Yeah, they have a thing for like German tanks. They can like do an assault move after they do their move, and they call it, I don't know what the hell they call it. They call it Panzer something or another. And it's like, okay, well that's hokey. Only the Germans can do that. Well, what does that represent? It doesn't really represent anything. And the problem is that game is not a 1-to-5 scale game. It's supposedly a 1-to-1 scale game, and it sure as hell doesn't play like it. You know. Yep. Well, you know, I can tell you one thing that's inspirational. If you want to do the Pacific, the people that do War Thunder make a video game called Enlisted. Now it is a first person shooter slugfest, but they have half of the maps are in the Pacific, and they have little villages and palm trees, and it's definitely inspiring. You know, a little dock with, you know, it has a lot of inspiration for terrain. A lot of inspiration for terrain. So, you know, I'm never going to be somebody who video games and doesn't do this also. So for me, it's always an inspiration for it, you know. And again, you got to know enough about World War II so you don't fall for the whole AI thing, you know. Enlisted is really hard to figure out because there's a lot of, I call it noise. It's very busy. But so there's a lot of stuff like, go here for this, but you don't need that yet unless you have a premium account. But that you only use that on a Tuesday if you've got one of these. You know, it's like you got to just struggle with it for a while. Like something I was playing last night, War Thunder, and it dawned on me something that in the last 3 weeks I didn't realize that it worked a certain way, and it took me 3 weeks to realize that it was, you know, worked a certain way. But yeah, Don's always giving me hell about, oh, you need to get a premium account. I'm like, no, then I can say I didn't spend any money. And he's like, what kind of mouse are you using? I said, I'm just using a cheap 2-button mouse. Oh my God, you're only using a 2-button mouse? I said, yeah, I'm kicking people's ass with just a 2-button mouse. Like, it's not like I've never played flight simulators. You know, I've been playing flight simulators since 1998 or 97 or 90, you know, even before that. It's, you know, I know what to do. It's just a matter of doing it. You know, we were playing last night and I got 9 kills in a row. Okay, I'll mark that off as I was playing a bunch of live people that didn't know what the hell they were doing, but it's fun and it keeps me from, you know, building. I want to look at Japanese aircraft. We'll start flying some, you know. There's a lot more microtransactions and enlisted turn me off a bit. Yeah, I know it's difficult. It's not so much for me that it turns me off. It's just like hard to wrap your brain. There's like everybody's screaming at you. It's like, can I do this? No, you can't do that. If you're not going to pay for it, you know. And there's enough to do in that game that you don't have to spend any money, you know. And the reason, it's not that I'm cheap, but look, if you spend say $100 on a game, which is a ridiculous amount, but say you spend $100 on a game, it's hard to walk away from. Like, I just unlocked something, an operation last night, and I misread. I thought that I was going to be able to have a premium account for one day. World of Warships does it all the time. I've got like a whole month. I've never spent a dime on it, but I've got like a whole month of it on a premium account because you do the little objectives, and if you do this, if you hit the Kind Tower this many times within the thing, you know, they give you stuff, right? But War Thunder is so chintzy when it comes to giving you things. I figured, okay, I'll do this operation and I'll get premium for a month, and we can build some stuff out, right? We can build some stuff out quicker. I don't mind building the things out slow because if you're talking about like really crummy planes or tanks, you could depreciate how crappy some of these things are. So when you get something better, it feels like it's a lot better. And so I did this objective knowing that I'm going to being able to open up today and have one day of premium. So I wanted to time it just right. So to see if I start at about 6 p.m., I'll be able to play it tonight. And then all day tomorrow until 6 p.m. at premium, right? Knowing that I'm not going to be able to do anything like this weekend because I'm going to want to maximize that premium. And what I misread is, no, one of the things you can win from that operation is a chance of one of the rewards being a one day free, which I didn't get. I got something else instead, which was basically worthless. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to worry about what these objectives are. I'm just going to play. So I didn't get the one day premium. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I can walk. Had I gotten the premium, it would have basically controlled me and kept me from maybe doing other things that I wanted to do because I'd be busy trying to play that game. So I don't mind not spending any money on something because you can walk away from it. You know, you don't have a, you know, you're not trying to get your money's worth out of something. You know. Arma 3. Arma 3 is all modern though, right? Yeah, what's a lot of fun is what's a lot of fun with a War Thunder, and I never thought it was a lot of fun, and it's definitely the thing I'm the weakest on. Like I'm the strongest on probably naval as far as knowledge and tanks. Aircraft is definitely the weak third one, but what I know even less than that is like PT boats and stuff like that, like little ships, and those are a lot of fun because they're really really fast. So it's like you can't fall asleep playing that. You know, it's like it's pretty involved. But I don't know. You know, I don't know all the little subclasses between all the stuff. So it's a lot of fun. Plus you get to bring in aircraft, and you know, like I said, it's something to inspire you to do this kind of stuff. Yeah, I haven't played the cards in several days now. I'm getting tired of people playing all the same way. That damn commando thing. That's pretty much the only thing that's annoying. Like really, that the commando cheating thing. It's obvious that everybody just went to a website and figured out how to. You know, they told you, oh, you build this deck like this. I'm like, it's just so damn hokey. Oh, Arma 3 has a big World War II. Yeah, I'm not anti first person shooter. I've just done so much of it in my life that I'd rather do something else. You know, I'm actually enjoying playing the aircraft a lot. I didn't think I was going to, but because some aircraft are just absolutely crappy. But you don't know. You start with those, and you're like for example, I'm building some early Soviet Soviet biplanes, right? Like an I-15, and there's a couple of variations of the I-15. And the I-15 actually is a really tight turning plane, probably the tightest turning plane in the game, but you wouldn't think because those all got hosed in like basically the first couple of weeks of Barbarossa. they were caught on the ground, then, they're basically shot to pieces. But they've got 4 machine guns. But the machine guns have a certain rate of fire on them. And you get to another plane, which is an improvement. You're like, how can this plane be an improvement? It's only got 2 machine guns. And they're both 30 caliber machine guns, 7.62 machine guns. But now you only got 2 of them. Well, they fire more than twice as fast. So that's really interesting, playing something like that has 4 machine guns, but they fire fast. They fire 900 rounds a minute. And then the next thing you know, you go to 2, and they're shooting, 1,900 rounds a minute. So, speaking of cards, you changed your account. I sent you a new friend request, same name. I'm at level 55, I think, on your Jap. Holy smokes. You've been playing the Japs a lot. The Nips. I'm in the 60s, I think, with the Americans. Oh. Except. That looks pretty good, man. That's like a courtyard or something. That looks pretty fucking good. You need some rubble in there, and you nailed it. Not to give you any ideas, how about one of those things that has one of those portholes that has like the hole in it, like right, like the entrance to the courtyard, and it's almost like a hole, like a round thing where you can put like a stone in it. Yeah, it looks pretty good. That might be on the cheap. That looks as good. I know you're not done, because I've seen stuff like at this level, and I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna turn out really well. And then when you progress from that, it's just like, you put some rubble in the corners and stuff like that. There's stuff you can buy aftermarket resin that looks just like that. For $1.25. Yeah, is it foam core? Yeah, it looks great, man. That looks great. Yeah, just level it up in lots of different levels. And I mean, one of my favorite things that I painted, probably my favorite thing that I painted, is this little bastard. And I've had this for 30 freaking years, probably. This little house that's, it's actually, I'm going to turn the light off. This is probably from, I believe it's from the Mexican-American War house. But, it could be Italy. It could be somewhere in the Philippines. I love this freaking thing. And it turned out so freaking well with the stains of it. And it was just fun to do. Like, all right, what does it need? Oh, maybe, in my head, I'm like, all right, there was some mold here and it dripped a little bit. And I'm doing all that while I'm painting it. I'm just enjoying the living shit out of this so much. That just the attention to detail. And I wanted to put these tiles, but I didn't want to paint them individually because I would take like a lifetime, but I didn't want to just slop it on there. And I found a way to go something in between. And it's probably my favorite thing that I've ever. Whoa! Let's not destroy it. My favorite thing is that I've probably painted. It's the lighting in here doesn't do it justice. I really need to take pictures of it outside. I'm truly amazed how well it turned out. And I've had this, I don't know how it's going to turn out. I mean, dude, just start slinging paint and figure it out. I'm sure that walled city, that walled courtyard house, whatever, that's going to be great. Mm-hmm. It's like an anything house. Well, it doesn't work for Russia, but, But yeah, no, this is great. These pictures, you're on it. And you are. You are. And you're gonna learn. The next one you do will be even better. Because there's stuff that's like, all right, man, I should have done it this way. Or, hot glue gun is amazing though, right? Because like, it doesn't make a mess. If it makes a mess, you just peel it off. You can work immediately. You don't have to we gotta wait for that thing to dry. Just keep going, On that suggestion you made about your Chinese project, do you have a picture of that thing mentioned? What are we talking about? The thing mentioned. Oh, my house? I gotta take a picture of it outside. No, this looks great. I think the secret to dry brushing isn't, you spray it black or dark or whatever, and you put at least 4 layers, maybe even 5. And you just it's fun to fuck with. Like maybe a little dirt over here. It's enjoyable. These shades, these army painter quick shade things, they're amazing. They're fun to use. They're no mess. They're cheap. They go. I mean, there's a lot to like. There's a lot to like. Yeah, I'm glad that's turning out really well for you. Crap, now I got to do one of those things. Well, that's what we're here for, to inspire each other, hopefully. No, that's great. $1.25, yeah. You're learning valuable skills, as I would if I did that. You're gonna motivate me to paint a little Japanese guy tomorrow. I don't want to get bogged down into it. I did look at the guy doing the bamboo, his bamboo example. I'm gonna do a little different. I'm gonna use his idea, but he has too much dead space around it. So in other words, he has a stand about this big, and the bamboo clump in the middle is about this big. So he's got too much empty space around it. I'm gonna have mine go further towards the ends, and make bigger clumps too. Yeah, just a random thought this morning, 6 a.m. It turned out to be way better than I thought it would. Yep. Sometimes you just have to start. You just have to start doing. And I get, I'm famous for like, I don't know how it's gonna turn out. I don't know what it takes. Just freaking do it. Every time when I was 13 or 14 or 15 years old, yeah, it didn't work out. But now it's like, you know what works and what doesn't work. And if it doesn't, you don't get it right the first time, you know where you went wrong and what you need to do to fix it. It's some empowering shit right there. $1.25, baby. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. One of those archways. Oh, I know that's what you're saying, a picture of it. Let's see. Let me do a search. What would I search? I'm a Google Fu expert. I have a black belt in Google Fu. Chinese wall archway circular. This should get me where I need to go. Yep. Something like this. All Zen and shit. Yeah, this is what I was talking about, the corners, man. You got some funky ass corners up here. Like, that's hard to do. Oh, this is a badass. That's a badass door. I love badass doors. Doors that have like big old rivets and like, the hell you getting in here? I like those the hell you getting in here doors. They have a lot of those in South Florida. I suspect they have a lot of them in Texas too. It's the definitely a Spanish influence to that. Like, not in my house. Yeah, Spanish houses don't have like a cute little window in the door. They're like, F you, you're gonna have to batter this thing alive. Yeah. Yep. Let's do. Oh, that's some great stuff. Let's see if I can. Sometimes you hit download and it doesn't download. And then let's do this. Download. All right. And this is really what the best thing about Facebook is. I use Facebook Messenger a lot. Okay, there's one here. It did not download the other one for whatever reason. So let me go back to it. We'll do this one too. And when I'm doing Asian stuff, you know, it always surprises me how few people are interested in Asian stuff. And what I used to say when I played DBA, I was like, well, we should build an Asian army. They're all pretty competitive and they're cool and everything. Well, I don't know anything about them. Well, here's your opportunity to learn something. You know, or what I like to say is, so you'll eat the food, but you won't play the army. Because I'd rather play the army than eat the food, because some of the markets scare me. I failed a morale check in one of them markets. And same thing in Mexico. I went to some markets in Mexico. Nope. Nope. No, I'm a spoiled American when it comes to that. But I like the architecture and all that kind of stuff, and the armies and things like that. Like I wouldn't mind having an army of Aztecs, but I'm not eating the shit they ate. Not eating bugs. No, you'll eat the food, but you won't play the armies. Man, so many of the Asian armies are really, really cool. Well, I don't have to tell you about it. You know it. Really, really cool. They just kind of suck in the flag department. It's like you'd think they would have awesome flags with like freaking grasshoppers and tigers and all animals and all kinds of all of their all of their myths and stuff. Nope. It's just a symbol of the main character of their dynasty. Like, that is lame. All this cool stuff they have, and they resort to that kind of crap. Yeah, but the Japanese, that's the reason I started doing this stuff, is for playing the Japanese cards and cards. It was a big, it was a big, it was a big boost. Man, I wonder what and that game, they'll speak your crews will speak the native language if you're playing it at some of the higher difficulty levels. Like the Italian PT boats is freaking hilarious. I don't know what they're saying. I can make out a word or two, but man, they were really excited. They get really happy. They get extra happy when you sink something. Get all sing-songy and happy and shit. Yeah, Google is your friend. Yeah, and those type of doors, you can do some really good woodwork if you just with cardboard. The wooden door that I did, where's my Spanish castle? The very first one I did. Oh, it's away. Okay, yeah. It's on one of the trays. It's not out here loose. I basically just took this kind of cardboard. Well, not this one. This one's super thick. But just the regular cardboard and cut the shape I wanted to. Cut thin strips and used Elmer's and basically made it so there was like wood on it. I didn't want it to be too thick because otherwise it looks like out of scale. And then just painted it like it was made out of wood, and it like looks freaking great. But a lot of this stuff in like the Philippines, for instance, The Philippines is an interesting mix between sometimes it looks just like Hawaii or China or a Spanish colony or all of them at once. It's really interesting. Um, the natural palms and everything, like the countryside is beautiful. So these palms can be any one of these places. Yeah, you're welcome, man. That's what we're here for, man. Motivate each other. What'd you make the base out of? For wood, I take a wire brush and drag it across foam core. It comes out pretty decent. Or use a mechanical pencil to carve out. Yeah, that would work. I mean, if you could do something that's thick, man, you better stop it, or I'm going to start working on that bunker this weekend. Especially now that I don't have a premium account. Oh man, could do a Guns of Navarone in the Pacific. The guns of Takashita. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Those Airfix U.S. Marines, though, apparently are not very accurate for Marines. So doesn't matter. It'd be an army operation. I got a squad or I got a squad or a squad and a half of Rangers. Use Rangers in all places. They used them in Italy. They used them in Normandy. They used them. Man, my stomach is having a concert. And you're all invited. Good ice. What you made? Okay. Yeah, no. I appreciate you coming on and having somebody to talk to. That's why I do this. I mean, maybe I'll see something that'll motivate you guys to do something. Maybe you show me pictures of what you're working on. I'll be like, oh shit, I can't wait to do that. Foam core for the base. At first it warped, which I thought I screwed up, but after adding some ballast for ground texture, it flattened out again. Wouldn't suggest foam core as a base. I wonder if cork will work. Because man, this cork is amazing. You can paint it. It doesn't warp. It doesn't warp with anything. I mean, I guess if you made it like really, 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 really long or whatever, but it has a nice weight to it. It carves pretty easy. So I'm reading this book about Italy, about casino and everything. It's the whole campaign in Italy, and there is this one U.S. tactical soldier study. It's available online. I forget what the site is. I downloaded it 20 years ago, and I'm like, where in Italy is this at? And apparently, it happened just around the time of the casino fell. Just before casino fell, they went in and it was called a Monte. I don't know what the hell it's called. It's either a saint, Our Lady of something or another. One of those is a religious named location. And I really haven't read it, and I have a feeling that it is going to have some interesting details, but it's all on a mountain. So that's kind of a pain in the ass to do, because you've got to have terrain in a way that the figures aren't going to fall off. But I don't. I don't want to get into Italy just now, because next thing you know, you're trying to do every theater at once. So I think that having this airfield and the palms that go with it, allows me to put the P40 out there, which you need to finish the P40. Boy, this thing Goop's up big time. We'll have to rinse all that shit out. I still think it's quicker than using that other stuff. Hobby Lobby got the cork. So it comes like this. Ooh, I still left the label, okay? On schedule, this is $6.99 and you get 4 pieces like this. It's actually 0.18 of an inch. So it's whatever the hell that is. 4.5 millimeters. So that allows you to have this piece that's pretty thin. Yeah, this is $6.99 for it. Yeah, here's one part of it. Cuts easy. Yeah, that's the thing is, if this was like wood and there'd be all this stuff, I'd be like, oh man, it's so dusty. I don't know. Cork is just, it's a cool material. It's a cool material. Yeah, there's nowhere to get things other than Hobby Lobby or online. And Hobby Lobby, just every time I go in there, they have less and less stuff. You know, now they removed all the Iwata airbrushes. So if I need any spare parts, you can't go there and get them. Not that I should need that many spare parts, but that's pretty inexpensive for cork. Cork tends to be pretty expensive for us here in the States. It's like super cheap in Britain. Yeah, but I appreciate you being on here. I powered through getting this done. Well, I'm not done yet, but you know, and I think I'm going to keep doing the. When I get these, I'm going to lay out the island and see how it looks. The island on the island. This will give me 11 pieces of these, and of course it's not just jungle where they're at. We got lichen and stuff to move in between them, but I'd like the airfield to be framed by the jungle, so to speak. And that's where the little guys come from, doing their attack. It could be a Japanese airfield. Could be, could be any which way. What I'm really surprised is that this doesn't warp at all. And it's heavy. Considering how light it is, it's dense. Well, we should be able to paint this Sunday morning. I don't know how long it's going to take this to dry, but I think it's a little too unrealistic to think we can do this tomorrow morning, that we can paint it. Oh yeah, because we still got to do the rocks and stuff. I'll be lucky if I can do the rocks tomorrow. How am I going to do the one? I don't think I'm going to. I don't know yet. I may actually use felt. I may actually use felt and airbrush the felt. But the secret to the war game table looking good is scatter stuff, scatter rubble. Not everywhere, but not to be like, okay, here's terrain, here's a road, and between the terrain and the road, it's just completely barren and there's nothing on it. It needs to have stuff that you're going to have to sweep up. That's just there for looks, so it ties everything in together. But it's not going to be a tarmac runway. It's just going to be like a dirt that's been bulldozed or what have you. But that watchtower looks pretty, looks pretty interesting. I came across somebody, I forget who it was. I want to say last weekend I saw it, and they made like these tanks, like holding tanks. That'd be pretty handy too. Not that I couldn't just make those, but I got to go to Hobby Lobby to return my air hose. So maybe I'll see if they've got some stuff and make a couple tanks. So the you can have something there over near the runway. Again, it'd be damn near free. They have like those little boxes that are like pre-made and they're almost like paper mache, and then like take it from there and just add details to them from that. If if you're doing a jungle airstrip, you're going to make one of those camouflage bunkers. I don't know. The problem with bunkers is you got a place where people can just hole up, and they're difficult to get them out of them, and that's not really fun for a scenario. It is if you're like attacking the backside, you know, and the bunker's that way, and everybody's coming your way. It's like guns and arrow. Oh man, those guns are deadly. Yeah, but we're attacking from the backside where they don't face. Like, all right, that works. That works. Okay, I think we're good with this. So we're gonna stop here. We're gonna let this dry, and then we'll pick up tomorrow morning. We'll take a look at this and hopefully it's all right. And we got like 3 or 4 brushes to rinse, so they get all sloppy and stuff. But I got a lot less stuff on here than I did on some of the other ones, so that's good. I just got to put them somewhere relatively level to dry out. Okay, folks. Well, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you can come by